welcome you to Weekly with the Watermans. We are delighted to be with you right now. We will be talking tonight about learning to let go, which is an exciting topic as we continue to think about dancing in the storm, successfully embracing change, and the fact that we are surrounded by chaos and how do we cope with that chaos is what we've been discussing now for the last several weeks. We only have 2 more weeks. We'll be talking about learning to let go this week. Next week, we're going to talking about how do you really embrace the chaos that surrounds everyday life or the huge chaos opportunities that happen in our lives. The thought of even embracing chaos is kind of off-putting, but I'm promising you it's possible. And with God, it's possible. So we'll talk about that. And then the final week, we'll be talking about finding rest. That as we embrace chaos, we find rest like we may never have experienced before. And then after that, Rene will share what we're going to do then.
I love going to movies. I love watching the trailers. So I get to be the trailer for our next topical study. Imagine coming home from work. You had a long day, tired, walking in, and your wife starts to talk at you, and you don't understand her. And you respond back, and she doesn't understand you. Do you think that might cause a little friction in the relationship? That happens every night in America and everywhere around the world. But it's not a difference of language, it's a difference of communication styles. If you've ever heard of the 5 love languages, that's our next study. This has been around for about 30 years. It's sold over 13 million copies. Gary Chapman is a marriage counselor. We all have a love language, which is the way we receive love. And just like your car, when your car gas tank is empty, it's not going anywhere. And in your relationship, if your spouse's love tank is empty, and guess what? You're the one who helps to fill it. If that tank is empty, you have extra stress in the relationship, extra distance. What helped in our relationship that helped us?
Yeah, this is so true that they say there are 5 different love languages. And it's in every relationship, not just in a spouse and husband and wife relationship. It's with your children is another wonderful way, or with friends. So the thing that helped with our situation when we first met one another is that one thing about Rene at the time that I met him was in seminary and also selling real estate. And one thing about real estate is it can literally take your life from you.
Consume you. Let's be honest.
Consume you. So that literally you are working 24/7, 7 days a week, always on call, always at the moment the phone rings, the moment anybody needs you. And you don't have time for relationships because that's the way real estate really can be. And I said to Rene when we first got married, well, first we both went through the love languages. And it became very clear, which I already knew, but it really became clear, time is my love language. So if Rene was going to work 24/7 and never have any time to spend with me, then why would I marry this man, right? And we talked about that. And it's interesting that the sad thing is you can be doing something you think is really helping your spouse, your friend, your child, whatever, and they may appreciate it, but it's not filling up that love tank. So for example, I love when Rene washes the car for me, or when Rene is kindly doing a gift of service for me. But that doesn't fill my tank up. What fills up my tank is time. When we have time to go on small trips together. When we have time to sit in the living room and just talk. When we just don't talk and sit in the living room and watch television a little bit.
Or I turn the phone off so I can be with her.
Which he does. We do a date night every week. Usually on Friday night. It's always been in the past. And I think it will continue. And he turns his phone off when we go out. And I have his complete attention. And that once a week, I look forward to that all week long. So that's what the love language is about. How can you actually connect with the relationships in your life by knowing how to show love to the people in your life?
This is a really great study. I've done it before, and it's life-changing. And you can buy this wherever you buy books. As a matter of fact, you can go to his website, the5lovelanguages.com. As a matter of fact, the next 3 days, you can sign up and have a virtual love language class in your house. He's doing this around the world through the internet, so that's pretty phenomenal. As important as it is for relational husband and wife, he's also got a book, Love Languages for Children. If you want to have a real impact on your children's lives, or even your co-workers, if you understand how a person receives love, that's a powerful connection. So that's coming soon, so get your book. So Getting on to tonight's topic, instant coffee, instant popcorn, takeout. We are a microwave world. We got to have it now. We want instant gratification, except it doesn't work in handling chaos. You cannot instantly handle chaos. If you could, we wouldn't have counselors, we wouldn't have pastors, we wouldn't have a whole lot of stuff out there. So it's in chaos, properly handling chaos is a process. They say that life isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. And that's so true with chaos. Chaos is a process that God used. If you look in Genesis, look at the creation of the world. The only place you see anything instant is God speaks it and it happens.
That's right.
Everything else is a process. And while things are going on in your life that you may not enjoy, you may not think is good, God is working something through that. So the sooner you accept there's a process involved and not instantaneous gratification, the better we can have our life move forward and understanding. And that's what we've been working through. So to recap, here's the steps to dealing with chaos we've covered so far. Step one, acknowledge that chaos is the raw material of life. It's here. It's how God operates. It's what God uses. It's the basic building blocks of our life. So once you understand that and realize, okay, this is not going away, and more than that, it's a good thing. It's the building blocks that God uses to build our lives and our futures. Step two, realize we have a tendency to resist chaos. I don't like this. I don't want to deal with this. It sucks. It is horrible. And we want to resist. We want to pull at the pricks, as it says in the Bible. But you realize, okay, it's building blocks. We fight against it, but we shouldn't. And step three, learning to reject our coping mechanisms. Every mechanism we try to cope with this does not work. If we can reject those mechanisms and realize, okay, let me go with God instead of fight against God, life becomes a whole lot better when that happens.
And the chaos isn't always generated by God. You have to realize, too, we live in a broken world. We live in a sinful, broken world where chaos sometimes is just because of all the brokenness that's around us. It is in the fabric of every life because we live in a broken world.
And also, quite honestly, a lot of things that happen to you are not about you. It's about your neighbors. How your neighbors watch how you handle a job loss, how you handle cancer, how you handle someone else getting a promotion. So God uses a lot of these things to impact a lot of people and to further his plan. So tonight we're dealing with the fourth step, discover peace in the process of chaos. And that's a wonderful thing. And chaos isn't something to be overlooked, but something to appreciate and to understand and accept as how God works in our lives. The ultimate path to peace is God. That is the ultimate building block, how you can stop fighting against the pricks, how you can stop trying to do all this stuff. God will bring you peace. But interesting, I've known lots of people. I mean, I myself went to church for 30 years, religiously, and I use that word seriously, every Sunday. But did I know God? No. In the same way, you could sleep in a garage every night. It won't make you into a Ford F-150. Going to church every Sunday doesn't make you a Christian. Going to church every Sunday will not give you that peace. And I constantly reiterate this. It's through that relationship with God, through his son, Jesus Christ. And the simplest way to understand that is there's a plan for your life. There's chaos, and many times in our lives, God orchestrates this chaos. So when we are offered the opportunity to come to Christ, we're ready for that. When I was 30 years old, I was asked by a pastor at a new church that I went to if I knew where I was going to go when I died. I said, I do not know. I sure would like to know I end up in the right place. And he asked me simply if I would want to accept Jesus as the payment of my price for my sin. And I said, absolutely. And through that 5, 6, 7 minute conversation, I found peace in my life. And that's lasted for 30 years and will last forever.
For eternity.
So that peace. So if you do not have that peace, if you do not know that relationship with God, that's something you need to take care of, because that is the key to everything. And there's great freedom in letting go and letting God. Linda knows that I like to laugh. I'm very proud of my laugh lines. I remember hearing this joke that just set me off. This guy was in the mountains, he was hiking, and he fell off a cliff. And he grabbed a tree branch halfway down a cliff. He's hanging on there. He's screaming, help me, somebody save me. He didn't hear anything. A little louder, help me. He didn't hear anything. Finally, he heard this voice below him. Let go, I'll catch you. The guy looks around and says, help me, somebody help me. And the voice says, this is God. Let go and I'll catch you. And he said, is there anybody else out there? I can assure you that God will catch you.
Amen.
Whatever you're going through, wherever you're at, God is not unaware of that. He's going to help you.
Amen.
So while that's humorous, God truly is for you. Romans 8:28 says, why don't you talk about that in your book?
So this is what I put in the book about Romans 8:28. Maureen asked me to share this. So what does all things work together for good mean? That's the puzzle. Recently, as I viewed the situation of a friend, I was thinking, God, this is not good. I don't understand what's happening. How can this be a good thing? And I remember that day, writing this, I remember the day I went through that experience. It seemed the voice of God spoke to my heart. And Linda, what is good? Can you define it? Who are you to determine what is and is not good when I am the source of goodness? It's originated with me. It is my character quality. And I'm the only one who knows its definition. I'm the only one who knows what is really good. Isn't that right? That stopped me in my tracks. I had a lot to think about. No one is good but God, Jesus said. So I guess he's the only one who knows what is good. And though a thing may not look good, that doesn't mean it can't be good. So it goes with chaos. The chaotic thing that we confront may be something we can't imagine as being good. Yet from God's perspective, it may be necessary for our growth or for joy in our life, whether it resulted from an act of evil, a circumstance of life in a broken world, or an act of God. He has the power to take it and transform it into a good thing. That's what he promises to do. All things, not some, not a few, not when God feels like it, but all things combine, blend, and change for our good. It's God's process.
You know, would you agree with me that sometimes God doesn't make sense? When that was written in the Bible in Jeremiah, and Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet, he was instructed by God to share some tough words with a rebellious people. This was written as their country had been, as the Israelites' country had been defeated. Can you imagine your army wiped out, your capital, your temples wiped out, treasuries robbed, many people killed, men, women, and children, and the best of the rest in chains being led off to a foreign country, never see your country again. And the prophet says, I have good plans for you, says God. Plans that bless you, not for disaster, to give you hope in the future. Do you think they probably thought that makes no sense? But God knew in 70 years they're coming back. He knew they had to go through this process. They had to go through this horrible time. But as part of the eternal plan for mankind, those survivors played into that. So what you're going through may not make sense. And that's okay, because he's God and you're not. While you can say that life isn't logical, it's not. Life doesn't make sense, believe me. Right now, tomorrow, a month from now, it still won't make sense. Life isn't clean and neat. I come back to those 30-minute sitcoms. Problem, solution, 30 minutes, everyone's happy, the music comes up, tra-la, tra-la. That's not life. Mm-hmm. Life is tough. Life is painful. Life is messy. But the truth is that God is always at work. And he doesn't have to explain himself. He doesn't have to make sense. We just have to believe. It says in Isaiah 55, 8-9, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. He's not whispering. He's declaring aloud. That's a pretty loud voice. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. And let's be honest here. If God can speak the earth, the world into existence, if he can make light happen, if he can do all these things, if he can send Jesus to die on a cross for us, he can raise Jesus from the dead, do you think he can't handle your situation? Do you think he's asleep at the wheel? His process for our life has a plan, even if we can't see it. And when you can acknowledge that and release your hands from the steering wheel, let go of that branch, he's going to catch me.
Absolutely. And the thing I think that is so hard about that is that somehow we feel we have to control the situation. Learning to let go is, just as Reen shared, acknowledging that God has a sovereign plan. He can take anything, whether it came about because of horrible things that happened in the world, whether it came about because God allowed it to happen, God made it happen, or, whatever it is. God can work it for good. He promises he would, actually. He promises that he will work all things for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Every one of us who believe in Jesus Christ and are depending on him for our life have been given a plan for our life. He has a perfect plan for each of us. So we are called according to his will. And the thing is about it, in all of this, we tend to think we know what's best. And I know as a parent, parenting is the perfect example. We're supposed to be older. We're supposed to be wiser. We're supposed to be able to help our children keep from making mistakes we made, in our minds. And we are sure we know what's best for our child. And, I tell in the book, I tell the story of, I'll never forget a woman standing up speaking at a conference that I heard. And she is I'd say about 50 years old. And she stood up and she said, "I am a controlling woman." I remember I was shocked. Who would stand up and say such a thing about themselves in front of people? Would I ever want to admit I was a controlling woman to anyone if I am? And then, of course, I didn't think I was. So when she said this, and then she went on to speak, I realized in some ways we're all controlling people. Because we're doing it because we think we're doing what is the best for our family, for our spouses, for our friends. How much advice have you ever given telling someone what you think they should do because you want to help them? But it may not be what they need to do at all in their lives. It's amazing how we use control. Perfect example is with children. How many parents, and you may be one of those, honestly, I have to be honest with you, it may be because you're trying to fulfill your own dreams through your child's life, honestly.
That's
maybe
vicarious
something,
living.
Yeah, vicarious living. Maybe there's something that you didn't accomplish in your life. You wanted to be a baseball player and be in the pros all your life, and all of a sudden now it didn't happen for you, so you're going to be sure it happens for your child. Sometimes we manipulate to make that happen too. Other times it could just be as simple as you think this is best for your child, so you don't want them to do this, or you do want them to do that, and they may have no interest in that at all. And I think that's our controlling nature, where we have to learn to trust God for our child. Remember, they are a gift from the Lord. They belong to him. He has a plan and purpose for each one of your children.
And that's a great thing. We control because we're afraid. We're afraid of the outcome. We're afraid what could happen. If I let my child run out in the street, he can run over by the elephant. We don't know. So we keep them in their bedroom, even though there's no elephants in America. But fear isn't logical. There's no quick, easy way to fix our broken lives. I have a friend of mine, Howard. I was a good friend of mine for 25 years. I was his best man. He lives down in Virginia. He's retired. Whenever I'm there, he's watching the stock market, and I see the things go up and down. He said, today and tomorrow, it doesn't really matter. It's in for the long haul that it finally matters. These day traders, those are the ones who freak out because it's up and down today. But if you're in for the long haul, the fact of the matter is things usually end up okay. So all events, activities, decisions, choices we make are intricately woven into the tapestry of our lives. Not only for today, but our tomorrow. And as Linda's written, there's no accident in God's economy. So the things that happen in your life, God has a way of weaving them. If you go into an Oriental rug store, you see these beautiful rugs. If you turn them over, they're ugly, they're confused, they're tangled, it makes no sense. But all those knots and all those detours make that beautiful tapestry. So having a long game approach to your life helps even out the ups and downs, makes sense of the senseless, redeems the past, and offers hope for the future. If you screwed up, oh well, that's going to help you not in the future. There's two kinds of will. There's God's perfect will, God's permissive will. You know, some people say, I missed out on this because I ended up getting divorced and those kind of things. But God still can weave that in there.
Absolutely.
He's not asleep at the wheel. He hasn't forgotten it. There's not a right way, and the rest of it you fall off. Like one of those cartoons when we were kids, the Roadrunner, who falls off the rock, off the earth, and he's gone. That's not the case.
Isn't it wonderful that redemption is an ongoing, everyday, moment-by-moment experience in our life? God is constantly redeeming both the choices that we make that are consistent with His Word and that are the right choices, and the choices that we make that are not consistent with His Word. When we repent, when we turn away from those choices, He is ready to completely weave and even work that thing somehow in strange ways for good. For example, you may have had something happen in your life that was from a bad choice, but you learned from it. And if you repented from it and let God weave it into your life, you may help the next person not make that choice. God can use you to help people.
That's a great point. Chaos is not linear, it's not logical, it's not predictable, but it does accomplish God's goals for making us more Christ-like. There is that guilt, that condemnation, regret, all that helps us in our future not to make those same mistakes again.
It's so interesting because my friend, and the book is based, I really wrote this book after the death of a very dear friend to cancer. And I was working through all of these issues because it was a life-changing experience for me when she died, and a faith-challenging experience for me when she died. And I wanted God's answers. I wanted to understand. I loved God and never changed my love for God, but I didn't understand. And this book is really a response to that. But she would say something in the last year of her life that I thought was always phenomenally true. She would say, everyone quotes the verse, God works all things for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purposes, which is what I just quoted to you, and it is absolutely true. She said, but they never read the next verse, which says, so that we might be transformed into the image of His Son. God is working everything in our life that we might be more like Jesus, to go meet Him in heaven in our eternal home when it's time to go. So we live on this earth as citizens of a kingdom in heaven. We are citizens of that kingdom right now. And we are learning the culture. We are learning the language. We are being transformed into the image of Jesus to go there. So that's very significant. And one thing that I want to share too, Rena, to ask as we have what time we have remaining. Sometimes we become controlling and depend on these chaos coping mechanisms of structure or blindness, all these things, because we feel we have to be responsible. I'll never forget once, due to a situation that was going on in a larger family situation I went and talked to a counselor. And I remember I was trying to fix everything in this situation, and she said, Linda, you have an exaggerated sense of responsibility. I never forgot that phrase, an exaggerated sense of responsibility. In other words, I was constantly trying to fix what God needed to handle, not me. I'm not God. He is. And so there's a difference between being responsible and genuinely caring in how you respond to people. It's not that I didn't care about everybody that was involved, absolutely, but I didn't know how to show genuine caring. I was too busy trying to control things because I felt responsible for them. So Rena and I had something we were going to share. Rena's a counseling background. He's a wonderful counselor. And so in the book, it shows the difference between being responsible for others or feeling responsible to others. Okay, so I'm going to talk about feeling responsible for others and let Rain share the others. So when I feel responsible for others, I fix it by protecting, rescuing, controlling, carrying their feelings, or tuning them out.
When I feel responsible to others, I show empathy by encouraging, sharing, being open to discussion, being sensitive, listening.
I feel tired, anxious, fearful, and liable.
I feel relaxed, free, aware, have high self-esteem.
I am concerned with the solution, the answers, the circumstances, being right, the details, performing.
I'm concerned with relating person to person. Feelings. The individual is a person with unique gifts, abilities, needs, and desires.
When I feel responsible for others, I am a controller. I expect the person to live up to my expectations.
When I feel responsible to others, I believe if I share myself, the other person has enough inner resource to make it. I'm a helper, guide. I expect the person to be responsible for himself or herself and his or her actions, I can trust and let go.
That's the key to it all. We can trust and let go and know that God is in control. And I say that again, particularly concerning your children, because it's such a gift from the Lord that I had a wonderful, godly mother. And my brother and I have a brother. She, all of our lives, encouraged whatever gifts, skills, or abilities each of us had. We were entirely different people. I'm more outgoing, I write, I think like that. He is very introverted. He ended up being a doctor. I ended up being a writer. Very different personalities, very different people. And yet she encouraged each of us to develop and become the person God had made us to be. She loved the Lord with all of her heart. I try to do that with my own children. And I'm so grateful to say that God honored that. And that I have 3 entirely different children. Very different. My oldest daughter works for the International Justice Mission. She is the assistant to the president himself. She's very organized. She's very, she's sharp as a tack. She just manages things wonderfully well. I have a son who's very creative. She's also creative. Each of them have wonderful gifts that are very similar, but they're very different personalities. And my son is very creative. He ended up now owning a website development company that works on websites all over the world in Charleston, South Carolina. My youngest daughter, again, she's very gifted and talented and caring and kind. She has that kind of almost a counseling personality. And people are always drawn to her, have been since she was just a little girl. She would go around the neighborhood and she'd go meet the elder people in the neighborhood and be a blessing to them. So the bottom line is, and she has, she does outdoors things. She loves creating things in the outdoors. The point is, when I finally learned how to let go of my children and let them become the people God wanted them to be and trust God that He would take care of them. I mean, Ruthie travels the world, to the worst parts of the world all the time. And I had to let go and trust God to take care of her in her work with the International Mission. So I'm just sharing that in a wonderful way, when you do let go, God will do miracles beyond anything you imagine.
That's a great point. It's important to understand that chaos does lead to order. I love counseling people. I believe in process-driven counseling. I've had a lot of pain in my life, so when I'm counseling someone, I can come into their pain with them and empathize. And I can help them see that there is a process of asking God's forgiveness, a process of drawing closer to Him, a process of becoming a better person, someone who will work through this. And it's systematically, but chaos creates order. But we have to release, we have to let go to God, we have to surrender. And when you let go of that tree, He will catch you. And everything that's going on in your life affects your future, affects your family's future, affects lots of people. You may think it makes no sense, but it does. You may not be able to understand at the current time, but I can assure you down the line, you will look back and say, hey, that probably happened for a reason and a chain reaction.
Absolutely. Do you want to end with prayer?
I do indeed. Well, thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to get the 5 love languages. You can even read a self-test in there. So, Father, I thank you for the time with everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening. I thank you, Lord, that there is a process, that you have a plan for us. I know the plans I have for you. Plans for your welfare, not destruction, to give you a hope and a future. And Lord, every day is uncertain. Nothing is guaranteed except your love for us and your forgiveness for us. So I pray you bless everyone, Father. Pray you have a great night, a great week. In your holy and precious name, amen. See you next week.
We'll look forward to it. And as Rena's closing this off, we do want to say in the last moment we have, please feel free to send either me or Reen an email, especially Reen. What is it again, Reen?
Pastor Reen at SeatownHope.com.
Pastor Reen at SeatownHope.com. If any of these things have triggered issues in your heart and mind, send him an email. It's confidential. He'll keep it all confidential. He'd love to help you.